Welcome to the deep dive. Where we break down these complex topics. And today we're going to be looking at Texas Instruments.
Okay.
See if their stock, TXN, is something you might want in your portfolio.
Interesting.
We've got some sources here, like right from their website, stuff about factory automation.
Okay.
We've got a stock analysis from Zacks.com. And of course, got to get that history in there, right?
Yeah.
So some stuff from the Texas Instruments Wikipedia page as well.
Yeah, I think that's going to give us a pretty well-rounded view.
Yeah, for sure.
Get a good picture of the company, where they stand,
For sure.
and ultimately see, if it makes sense as an investment.
Absolutely. Well, let's rewind a bit, right? Let's go back in time for a second.
Okay.
Little history lesson here. Texas Instruments, they've been around for a while, haven't they?
Oh, yeah. For a while. If you look at the Wikipedia page, you'll see they were founded all the way back in 1930.
Wow.
Almost 100 years ago. It's crazy.
That is a long time.
Started out as Geophysical Service Incorporated.
Right.
And they were all about, oil exploration, that kind of equipment.
Oh, wow.
But it wasn't until 51 that they became, the name we know, Texas Instruments.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's how they started. What about some of those big moments, those milestones? What really put them on the map?
Well, 54 was a big year for them.
Yeah.
They came up with the first silicon transistor you could actually buy, commercially available.
Wow.
And that kind of changed everything for electronics.
Huge.
Yeah. And same year, they released the first transistor radio. So big stuff.
So they were leading the charge, basically.
Yeah. Front of the pack. Absolutely.
Front of the pack. The transistor revolution.
Exactly. But they didn't stop there. In 58, one of their engineers, Jack Kilby, invents the integrated circuit.
Oh, wow.
That was a game changer.
Yeah.
And that's the foundation for computing as we know it today, right?
Oh, yeah.
And they just kept innovating. You had Speak and Spell in the 70s.
Yeah.
They even jumped into home computers. They weren't afraid to try new things.
So a real history of innovation there.
Right.
Okay. So that's the past. Let's fast forward to the present.
Okay.
What's their financial picture look like today? What's that Zacks.com analysis telling us?
Well, according to Zacks, TXN's got a Zacks rank 3 right now, which basically translates to hold.
Hold. Okay.
So analysts are thinking it'll probably perform kind of average, like the rest of the market. So don't expect any huge jumps or drops in the short term.
Okay, so no big roller coasters expected. What about their market cap, and how's the stock been doing lately?
Well, as of today, December 17th, 2024, it's sitting around $188 a share. And way back in October 2018, their market cap was already a whopping $88 billion.
Wow.
Yeah. Gives you an idea of just how big this company is.
That's massive. All right, well, let's dive a bit deeper into those financials. What about key ratios like price to earnings and price to cash flow?
Sure. So their price to earnings, or PE, is at 22.37 right now, meaning investors are basically shelling out $22.30 for every dollar of earnings the company makes.
So is that a lot? What does that tell us?
It is on the higher side. So it tells you the market's got pretty high hopes for their future earnings growth. Could be a good sign, shows confidence.
Right.
But it also means there's more risk involved. If they don't hit those expectations, things could go south.
Makes sense. What about the price to cash flow?
Right now, it's at 10.01. Basically means for each dollar of cash flow they generate, investors are paying $10.01.
Okay. Is that cause for concern?
It's similar to the PE a bit on the high side, so it could be a hint that the stock's a little overvalued at the moment.
Okay.
But of course, got to look at the bigger picture.
Right. Can't just focus on one number. Absolutely.
Okay.
So let's talk about their place in the market. They're a big name in the semiconductor world, right?
Oh, absolutely. Consistently in the top 10 globally.
Okay. What sets them apart from other companies in that space?
Well, they're really focused on analog chips and embedded processors.
Oh.
Those two segments actually make up over 80% of their revenue.
I'm more familiar with the consumer side of tech. What are analog chips and embedded processors used for?
So these aren't the chips you see in your phone or computer. They're kind of the unsung heroes. They power all sorts of things, industrial equipment, cars, even your smartphone has them.
Oh, okay.
Pretty much any electronic device, there's a good chance they're in there somewhere.
So they're kind of behind the scenes making everything work.
Yeah, exactly. And they're getting more and more important as everything gets connected and automated.
Makes sense. Okay, so let's switch gears a bit. Talk about their services business. We know they sell components to tons of different companies, but what can you tell us about that?
Well, they've got a huge reach, over 100,000 customers around the world.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty impressive. Shows how vital their tech is across all kinds of industries. And they're top dog in the analog semiconductor market. That market was worth over $10 billion in 2020.
That's huge.
Yeah.
But it's not just about selling those standard components, right, they also have that custom solution side.
That's right. They've got a big business in custom ASICs. Those are application-specific integrated circuits. Basically, they work directly with clients to create tailor-made solutions.
Okay. Why would a company choose to go the custom route with Texas Instruments?
Well, it lets them fine-tune their designs, get better performance, and potentially save money in the long run. It's all about creating the perfect chip for a specific job.
So it's a win-win for both sides.
Yeah, exactly. It opens up new markets for Texas Instruments, and it lets them build stronger relationships with their clients.
They become more like a partner.
Exactly.
Okay, so strong market presence, a diverse business model. But what about their growth strategy? Have they made any big acquisitions lately?
Oh, yeah. Back in 2011, they bought National Semiconductor. Cost them $6.5 billion.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a big one.
What was the strategy behind that move?
Well, it really cemented their spot at the top of the analog technology market. They became the world's biggest maker of those components.
Okay, so they're not just sitting back and relaxing.
No, not at all. They're still hungry for growth.
So going back to our initial question, is TXN a good addition to your portfolio? It seems like there's a lot to like: the history of innovation, the strong market position, the solid financials. But we've also seen some signs that it might be overvalued. What's your take so far?
Yeah, it's definitely got its strengths, but that potential overvaluation, that's a yellow flag. You really got to think about if the current stock price truly reflects the company's value.
That's a key point, and one we're going to have to dig into further. But let's shift gears a bit. What about the whole ESG thing, environmental, social, and governance, those factors? What does their Wikipedia page tell us about that?
Well, one thing that stands out is that they sold off their defense business back in '97. They sold it to Raytheon.
Interesting. What prompted that?
Well, some people might see it as a way to distance themselves from, let's say, more ethically tricky industries. Well,
Aligning more with ethical concerns.
makes sense. Anything else in their history that investors who care about ESG should know about?
Yeah, back in '88, they had to pay a settlement for basically overcharging the government on some missile contracts.
Okay. So, definitely something potential investors should be aware of.
Yeah, it definitely highlights how important it is to do your homework before investing.
Yeah.
Look into a company's past, their practices, the whole 9 yards.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive. We've looked at Texas Instruments' history, their financials, their place in the market, even touched on ESG factors.
Definitely seen some strengths, some potential weaknesses too.
Exactly. So stay tuned for part 2, where we're going to delve deeper into their innovation pipeline, specifically that factory automation work they're doing.
That'll be interesting.
And we'll take a closer look at their dividend policy and share buyback program as well.
Yeah, got to see how all those things play into their investment potential.
Absolutely. See if TXN really is the right fit for your portfolio. So, picking up where we left off, we were talking about innovation, right?
Yeah.
Let's dig into that a bit more, specifically Texas Instruments and all this factory automation stuff they're involved in.
Yeah, we touched on that a little, but I guess I'm curious, like, why are they focusing so much on this?
Well, think about it. Factory automation, it's like a huge opportunity, not just for them, but for, companies like them.
Right.
Every industry out there, they're trying to automate more, be more efficient, safer, more productive.
Makes sense.
And all that requires, serious tech.
Okay, so Texas Instruments is basically trying to be like the go-to guys for this whole industrial revolution thing.
Exactly. And they're not just providing the parts, it's like the whole package.
Right.
Products, services, everything you need to make your factory smarter, more efficient.
Okay, so what are some concrete examples? Like, how are they innovating in this space?
Well, they talk a lot about robotics and functional safety on their website, which makes sense, right? Industrial environments, safety is a huge deal.
Yeah, of course. What exactly does functional safety mean in this context, though?
It's about making sure that, even if something goes wrong with the electronics, the system still behaves safely.
Oh.
Think about it like a robotic arm in a factory. You got a power surge, sensor failure. You don't want that thing going haywire.
Yeah, definitely not.
Someone could get hurt. So they're designing chips and systems that can, anticipate these problems, respond to them before they become disasters.
So they're trying to prevent those worst-case scenarios.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Advanced monitoring, diagnostics, all built in.
Sounds pretty cutting edge.
Yeah.
But how do they, prove that their technology is up to snuff, safety-wise?
Well, they adhere to really strict safety standards, like IEC 61508.
Right.
That's like the gold standard for safety critical systems.
So it's not just them saying, hey, trust us, it's safe. It's like verified.
Exactly. They've got to meet specific, rigorous requirements. Plus, they provide a ton of resources and support, to help their clients use everything safely and effectively.
So it's like they're really involved in the whole process.
Yeah. It's not just selling a box of chips and walking away.
Right. It's more like a partnership.
Exactly.
Okay. So seems like they've got a good handle on this whole factory automation thing. But let's move on to something else that's, pretty important for a lot of investors. Dividends and share buybacks. What can you tell us about Texas Instruments' approach to that?
So the Zacks.com analysis, it doesn't really go into specifics on their dividend policy or their share buyback program, for that matter.
Okay. So we're kind of in the dark there.
Mm-hmm.
What should our listeners do if they want to find out more about that stuff?
I'd say head over to their investor relations website.
Right.
Usually that's where companies lay it all out. Dividend history, payout ratios, share buybacks, all that good stuff.
Okay. Good tip. Thanks. Now, before we wrap up this part, I want to circle back to valuation for a second.
Yeah.
We talked about how some of the numbers suggest the stock might be a little overvalued. What are your thoughts on that now, having, looked at all this other stuff?
It's definitely something to keep in mind, The PE, the price to cash flow being a bit high could be a sign that the market's already baking in a lot of future growth.
Right.
But you got to weigh that against everything else. The fundamentals, their market position, long-term growth potential.
So it's kind of a balancing act.
Yeah. Got to look at the risks, the rewards, the whole picture.
Makes sense. Okay, so stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive. We'll try to, tie it all together, give you a clear answer on whether Texas Instruments is a good fit for your portfolio.
All right, so we've really dug deep into Texas Instruments, haven't we?
We have, yeah. Covered a lot of ground. History, financials, their place in the market, innovation, even some of those ESG factors.
A little bit of everything.
It seems like, they've got a lot to offer investors, but like anything, there's always some risk involved.
Yeah, always got to look at both sides of the coin, for sure.
So let's try and pull this all together, answer that big question. Is TXN something you should consider adding to your portfolio?
That's the big one, right?
And the million-dollar question.
And honestly, it's not a simple yes or no. Like most things in investing, it depends.
Right. Depends on what?
Well, your risk tolerance, how long you're planning to invest, what your goals are, all that.
Okay, so let's break that down. Someone who's really interested in growth potential, would Texas Instruments be a good pick for them?
Well, they're in industries that are definitely primed for growth, right?
Yeah.
Demand for semiconductors is just going up and up.
Right.
And their focus on analog chips and embedded processors, that's a smart move. Those are in everything. So, yeah, they're well positioned.
But we also saw that Zacks gave them a hold rating, which kind of suggests maybe those huge short-term gains aren't as likely.
True. That hold rating usually means they think the stock's fairly valued right now.
Oh, right.
So it's likely to perform, average like the rest of the market.
So maybe not the best for folks looking to get rich quick.
Probably not. Patience is key with this one, if growth is what you're after.
All right, so what about investors who are more interested in those steady dividends?
Well, unfortunately, that Zacks analysis didn't say much about their dividend policy.
Right.
Or their share buyback program, for that matter.
So what do we do?
Best bet is to head to their investor relations website. That's where they usually have all the details. History, payouts, buybacks, the whole shebang.
So a little extra legwork required for those dividend seekers. Okay, switching gears again, back to ESG. We talked about it, but how should investors who, really prioritize those factors approach Texas Instruments?
Yeah, ESG investing is all about aligning your money with your values, right? So you got to look beyond just the numbers, really understand their environmental and social practices, how they govern themselves.
We did mention they sold off that defense business, which seems like a good thing, ethically speaking.
Yeah.
But there was also that incident back in the 80s, the overcharging thing.
Right. So you got to look at the whole picture, the good and the bad, and then decide if what they're doing now matches what you believe in.
So it really comes down to doing your homework, right? Research those initiatives, their policies, and then make a call based on your own ethical compass.
Exactly. It's a personal decision, ESG investing. It's got to feel right for you.
Well said. Okay, so wrapping it all up, Texas Instruments, kind of a mixed bag for potential investors, wouldn't you say?
I agree with that.
They've got a lot going for them, no doubt. History of innovation, strong market position. They're going after those growth areas like factory automation.
Yep.
But there are those things to consider,
Mm.
maybe a bit overvalued, need to do some digging on those dividends and buybacks, and of course figure out where you stand on the whole ESG front.
Definitely.
So at the end of the day, the decision's yours to invest or not to invest. It's all about your personal situation, how much risk you're comfortable with, and what you're ultimately hoping to achieve.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Do your research, weigh the pros and cons, and make a choice that fits your strategy.
And hey, if you found this deep dive helpful, do us a favor. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave us a comment down below.
Yeah. Let us know what other stocks you want us to take a deep dive into.
We're always looking for new ideas. Until next time, happy investing, everyone.